Namaste, friends. Today is October 19th. It's about 7:15. It's cold today. It's 38, which is not horrible by any stretch. It's just, it hasn't been that cold here. And this is a temporary cold snap, I believe. I hadn't planned on doing this talk today. However, it's been weighing heavy on my mind, so I decided, just do it. Just do it. What's on my mind. And yes, this has some politics to it. Everything's political, even though we wish it wasn't. But what's been on my mind, as we all know, we're coming up to a very important election day. The primaries of this election are extremely important, particularly for women. Sorry, my face is kind of frozen. I'm having a hard time moving around. And I know I look like a real princess, don't I? But, some things are more important about how beautiful I am or am not at the age of 58. So, there was a political ad recently released. I think his name is Eric Swalwell, California Democrat, created a commercial with a hashtag lock her up. I will put a link to that down below, spoken like a YouTuber. But I think it's important to look at because I saw this ad and I cried. And I cried because it hit my heart so hard. Obviously, this is about a right to privacy and the overturn of Roe v. Wade and what people like to call pro-life. Well, I am very pro-life. I am extremely pro-life. I do not believe in the death penalty. I would rather let 10 guilty people live rather than to kill one innocent. I myself have 4 children. I was poor as a church mouse, but children are very important to me. But at that time of my life, that was what I was focused on, was having my children. I also have to add in here that I'm going to talk about some things that happened in the 90s, the decade of the 90s. I call it, that's a decade where I was either pregnant or breastfeeding on the entire decade. I was a very devout, practicing Catholic as well. I mean, there were weeks where I would go to church. I would go to daily mass if I could. My children were all, brought up in the Catholic faith, and I taught Sunday school for a while. And being that we homeschooled, often I added noon mass on our schedule. And as of 2001, many things happened, and I could no longer be a practicing Catholic. I am a Catholic by birth and by culture, but I am no longer, I do not practice religion. I find religion causes people to do crazy things. That being said, I just want to let you know, give you a picture of your 3rd stage goddess when I was still in the 2nd stage of motherhood. I was what the young people call now, I was very crunchy. I was a crunchy mom. Homeschooling, home cooking, everything. So, that being said, by the way, I've always immunized my children. I do believe in science. And even though I was a devout Catholic, I felt that, immunizations were a gift from God to protect my children and everybody around us. So I did, although it was very crunchy, I definitely everybody had their well-child checks and their immunizations, etc. So my first two children were born 2 years apart. This actually, as I said, very Catholic, not on birth control. And what determined when I got pregnant was nursing, because I breastfed my children. And I breastfed each of them for over a year. So it took a while for me, to get pregnant again. And so I had my first two children, my daughters, in the early 90s. Okay, now they were born in 90 and 92. And then I had my second two children in 96 and 98. Kind of an interesting age spread. It was funny, often I would talk about my children's ages and I'd say, yes, the same father, same family, because there was definitely a break of pattern there. Well, the reality is I had my daughters and I did get pregnant again after my second daughter was born, right on schedule, just like the first two, first pregnancies. I got pregnant again. Now, when I was 4 months pregnant, this is a special, anybody who's had a child knows that 16-week mark is really special. Now, back in the 90s, this is before they had all the fancy equipment that we use now. Back in the 90s, what happened during the 16-week appointment is that's when you first got to hear the heartbeat. And long story short, there wasn't one. Everything had been going along normally. Everything right on schedule. And at 16 weeks, we discovered that the pregnancy was not viable. The fetus had perished. It did not make it. There was no heartbeat. There was nothing. And I did not miscarry, which was a big concern for the doctors. So the way it worked is that they determined that they had to remove everything for health reasons, especially because being Catholic, I was still in my 20s. I wasn't done having children. So they took me in and did A, B, and C to bring my uterus back to health, to clean it out, because my body didn't automatically expel it. And it was heart-wrenching, because when you are pregnant and you're 4 months in, that child already has a place in your family. The plans have been made. Everything. You're on your way. That's a family member. Well, it didn't work out, unfortunately. And because of that medical procedure that I had, I was able to have 2 more healthy pregnancies and gave birth to my amazing sons, and I will be forever grateful. So that's why there's that age gap between my daughters and my sons. It's not that it was not planned. That's just what happened. So back to Eric Swalwell and his ad, Lock Her Up. It's about enforcing abortion as crime. And I'll let you watch the ad for yourself. But it starts with a family, a mother and father, feeding their toddler and having an older child. They're all having dinner. Just being a happy, healthy family. You hear a knock on the door, the police come, and they arrest her because her doctor has been arrested for giving abortions, and they seized his medical records and discovered she had had an abortion, We don't know why. It never says why, but it doesn't matter. My medical record shows that I didn't have what I would consider an abortion. I had a life-saving procedure so that I could preserve my fertility and go on and have 2 more children. But if somebody were to look in the medical records and see a D&C, they could arrest me. In that type of world where abortion becomes illegal. And it's horrifying to see the police drag her away in handcuffs with her children crying. Because, my friends, this is a reality right now. If abortion becomes illegal, and they're talking about for any reason, even reasons like the one I stated and experienced, they can arrest those women. I'm utterly speechless. And we like to think that maybe this is a dystopian fictional scenario. Is it? Is it? All it takes is a little bit of research to find and discover that these things are becoming a reality. And if we do not act to preserve our right to privacy, which is ultimately what Roe v. Wade is about our right to privacy, medical privacy. What I experienced was my medical horror show, and I have a right to privacy. And no matter what the reason was that I had to have that procedure, I don't think it's anybody's business but mine. And I certainly don't think it's a crime. Are you going to look at my incredibly productive, sweet, functioning young men and say, it wasn't worth it, we should have just let your mother go, lose her fertility and possibly even die with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old to take care of and never ever have my sons? Are you out of your mind? We have to look at the reality of what we're talking about. We have to look at the reality of what politicians are trying to do, at what they are taking away, and ultimately what they're taking away from women, and how it affects mothers and families and children. I mean, obviously right now, as far as abortion goes, I am postmenopausal. I'm not having another baby. I'm not having another baby, but I have daughters. I have a pregnant daughter right now, and I have granddaughters. They need protection. My family needs protection. We are fighting for our lives. We are fighting for our lives and the lives of our daughters and granddaughters and our families and our future. Please go out and vote. And I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I don't care. I want to say I don't care. But honestly, inflation and everything else right now just pales in comparison to the health of women, of mothers, of children, of families. Because we're nothing without our families and without our children, without our future. I do recommend watching the ad. Yes, it may be a little over the top, but it's also a very real scenario, a real statement, because if and I hate to say it, I'm going to use it though, Republicans get what they want, this will be our future. We have to protect women and children at all costs. At all costs. And if you don't believe in the morality of a medical procedure, then maybe you should really look into your morality and who it serves. Thank you for listening. Peace.